Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a canyon, but not one carved by rivers or time. This one is carved into the fabric of reality itself. On one side is the world of atoms, neurons, molecules, and data. On the other is the inner world of you, the ache of longing, the thrill of love, the terror of death, the hope of something more. The scientist beside you insists, it's all just matter. Your thoughts, your feelings, your very sense of self, they're illusions. Glorified chemistry. And yet, deep in your gut, something resists. Not out of ignorance, but out of experience. How can a lump of tissue suddenly become aware that it's alive? Try to see this. A child sees a sunset and gasps. A soldier weeps at the memory of a fallen friend. A philosopher questions his own existence. These aren't just brain signals firing in predictable patterns. These are experiences, felt, endured, known from within. What flickers behind your eyes isn't just data. It's you, vivid, aching, hoping, remembering, dreaming you. And yet, the modern materialist shrugs. It's all neurons. Consciousness, they say, is an emergent phenomenon, like foam atop waves. But no explanation is given as to how foam becomes aware that it exists. No theory of emergence has bridged that terrifying gap from firing circuits to first-person experience. You don't just compute pain. You feel it. You don't just process beauty. You are moved by it. Why? Why should carbon and hydrogen suddenly feel sorrow, dream of justice, or contemplate the infinite? The atheist worldview offers many clever metaphors: consciousness as an illusion, as a glitch, as a user interface evolved for survival. But none of these metaphors answer the real question. In fact, each one evades it. If consciousness is an illusion, who is being deceived? If it's a survival trick, why does it give rise to music, poetry, and despair? Close your eyes and imagine the final moment of your life. The lights dim, your breath slows, and the question presses in: did it mean anything? Was I real? Or was this whole life just a biochemical echo fading into entropy? This is the canyon. The chasm between raw matter and the miracle of being aware that you are. It haunts science, it stalks psychology, it torments philosophy. And every honest thinker, no matter how skeptical, must eventually ask, what is this thing called consciousness? And why do we have it at all? But the moment you ask that question seriously, you've already left the shallows of atheistic naturalism. You've already admitted there's more to the story. You've already felt the weight of a truth that cannot be explained by molecules in motion. So here we stand, staring across the great divide. One side offers equations, the other offers experience. One side says you're a machine, the other says you're a mystery. And you, caught between, must decide which voice is telling the truth. But before you decide, we need to ask a deeper question. Where did this canyon come from in the first place? And why have we been taught to ignore it? Let's walk into the shadows of that question. Think about this. What if the denial of consciousness isn't scientific at all, but psychological? What if it's not born from evidence, but from existential anxiety? After all, if consciousness points to something beyond matter, then matter is no longer enough. And for the modern mind, trained to worship control, predictability, and utility, this is an intolerable threat. The roots go deep. The Enlightenment severed the soul from the body, turning persons into machines. René Descartes made the mind a ghost in a machine. But it was later thinkers, like Freud, Marx, and Nietzsche, who began the real exorcism, a systematic evacuation of transcendence from human nature. Consciousness became a problem, not a wonder. Psychologist Carl Jung observed that modern man is not simply rational, he is divided. Torn between the instinctive pull of myth and meaning, and the intellectual allegiance to cold materialism. The modern atheist may scoff at God, but cannot escape guilt, beauty, longing, and love. These are not chemicals. These are signs of something more. Augustine of Hippo, long before Freud, recognized this internal war. He saw that the heart is restless until it rests in something beyond itself, in God. To deny the soul is to exile oneself into endless anxiety. Atheism didn't solve the riddle of the self, it buried it under dogmas of reductionism. Even more telling are modern cognitive scientists who now call consciousness the hard problem. Philosopher David Chalmers coined the term, admitting that even with the best brain scans, we cannot explain why certain brain states are accompanied by experience. You can point to activity in the visual cortex, but it does not explain why the color red feels a certain way. There's a gap, a yawning chasm, between data and qualia, between function and feeling. And yet, atheistic materialism insists, there is no ghost in the machine. Why? Because to admit there is, even a hint, is to unravel their entire worldview. If consciousness is real, and not reducible to matter, then reality must include non-material dimensions. And if reality includes non-material dimensions, then the door to God is once again open. Anselm of Canterbury once wrote, God is that than which nothing greater can be conceived. But consciousness, our awareness, our yearning, our very capacity to conceive greatness, is the very engine that makes such reflections possible. To deny it is to deny the very tool of truth-seeking. But we must go deeper still. Why are we so desperate to erase the soul? Why do we cling to theories that erase us in the process? It is not because we are brave enough to face reality. It is because we are terrified to face the possibility that we are accountable to someone greater. G.K. Chesterton put it plainly, the atheist is not a man who believes that there is no God. He is a man who is afraid there might be one. Atheism is often disguised as science, but at its roots, it is existential evasion. And what does this do to the human spirit? It splits us. It trains us to live as if we are merely machines, even as we ache for meaning. It convinces us to ignore the voice inside that cries, I am more than matter. It slowly erodes our ability to wonder, to reflect, to worship. This isn't just a philosophical error. It's a psychological wound. And it's spreading. The hidden problem, then, is not that atheism cannot explain consciousness. It is that it refuses to. It represses it. It suppresses the evidence of our own inner lives, all for the comfort of a closed system. But repressed truths never disappear. They return, in dreams, in despair, in art, in agony. And they demand to be heard. So what happens when a culture suppresses the soul? What are the unseen consequences of denying consciousness? Let's follow that thread. The deeper we go, the more urgent this question becomes. Try to see this, you wake up, stare at your ceiling, and feel hollow. You scroll your phone, watch reels of other people's lives, consume noise, and yet deep down, nothing touches you. There's a strange numbness, a dull ache behind your eyes. You can't quite name it, but it's always there. Now imagine that this quiet despair isn't just personal. It's cultural. It's systemic. It's the byproduct of a world that has amputated the soul from its view of reality. This is the unseen cost of denying consciousness. It turns persons into processes, love into chemical reactions, and morality into preferences. It guts the interior world, the seat of meaning, and replaces it with hollow mechanisms. You become a self-aware machine, and the more you try to live like one, the more estranged you become from what makes you human. Look around. The evidence is everywhere. Mental health epidemics skyrocket, not merely because life is hard, but because modern people don't know who they are. Teenagers are taught their minds are accidents. Their dreams, illusions. Their emotions, glitches in neural software. How do you build a meaningful life from that? You don't. You medicate the pain. You perform identity. You curate yourself into avatars, hoping someone will validate the echo of your lost self. This is not a coincidence. It's the logical outcome of atheistic materialism. If consciousness is a side effect of survival, then suffering is just a glitch. If you're only matter, then your worth is negotiable, based on productivity, appearance, or utility. The moment you become a burden, society begins to wonder if you should even exist. You feel that in your bones, don't you? We see this in how we treat the elderly, the unborn, the mentally ill, and the spiritually broken. If the soul is a delusion, what value do they have? None, except what others assign to them. The denial of consciousness doesn't just confuse philosophy. It corrupts compassion. C.S. Lewis warned that, you cannot go on explaining away forever, you will find that you have explained explanation itself away. When we explain away consciousness as an illusion, we end up unable to explain anything. Every moral judgment, every truth claim, every appeal to reason collapses. After all, if thoughts are just electrical impulses, what makes one impulse true and another false? What makes one moral and the other evil? You see the danger now. Atheism's failure to explain consciousness doesn't just haunt academia. It erodes the foundations of law, ethics, education, and relationships. It leaves us stranded in a world where nothing is sacred, and everything is for sale. And here's the cruel irony, even those who preach materialism live as if consciousness is real. The neuroscientist who writes books denying free will does so as if his readers have the freedom to choose. The philosopher who claims you are just neurons still argues with passion, hoping to persuade, not realizing persuasion only makes sense if minds matter. This is the contradiction they can't escape. You cannot argue against consciousness without using it. You cannot deny personhood without appealing to it. You cannot say, you are just an illusion, without presupposing a you to be deceived. It's not just bad logic. It's spiritual disintegration. And the longer we live under this illusion, the deeper the fracture becomes. We raise children in a world that tells them they are cosmic accidents, and then wonder why they struggle with depression, anxiety, and self-harm. We feed them dopamine loops, empty affirmations, and secular dogmas, and wonder why they feel lost. But underneath this collapse, a deeper yearning begins to stir. We want to believe again, not in fairy tales, but in truths too profound to be measured. We want to look in the mirror and say, I am real. I matter. I am more than atoms. We long to reclaim what was stolen, the sacred dignity of the conscious soul. And that is where hope begins. Because once you see that the modern view of consciousness has failed you, you can begin to ask the ancient question, what if I was made for more? So how do we resist? How do we break free from this invisible cage? To answer that, we must go back, before the Enlightenment, before the machines, before the secular myths. We must remember a vision of the human being that is older, deeper, and truer. Let's find our way back home. Visualize this. You are in a darkened room, bound not by chains, but by ideas, whispers that told you since childhood, you are nothing but a body. You are a sack of chemicals. You are replaceable, programmable, forgettable. And suddenly, a crack of light cuts across the wall. A voice, ancient and familiar, calls out, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. This is the first act of resistance, to remember that you are not an accident. You are an image bearer. You carry the likeness of the eternal, the fingerprint of the divine. But this is not merely a religious claim, it is a rational revolution. The Christian worldview does not suppress consciousness. It sanctifies it. It says the soul is not a glitch, but a gift. The mind is not an evolutionary quirk, but the breath of God. Your ability to reason, feel, and choose is not an illusion, it is your divine inheritance. And the first thinkers to shape this resistance understood its gravity. Augustine said the soul is the mirror of God. Blaise Pascal wrote that, man is but a reed, the weakest in nature, but he is a thinking reed. This capacity to reflect, to suffer, to hope, this is what makes us greater than stars. Thomas Aquinas argued that the immaterial soul was not opposed to the body, but its very form, the animating principle that made us human. You are not merely a brain in a skull. You are a mystery knit together by spirit and flesh. This is why Christian psychologists like Larry Crabb and David Benner emphasized healing the inner life, not through medication alone, but through integration. The soul must be reawakened to its source. Healing comes not by erasing pain, but by discovering its redemptive purpose. This shift is radical in a secular age. It means reclaiming language modernity has mocked: soul, virtue, sin, grace, eternity. It means rebuilding identity on foundations deeper than productivity or pleasure. To resist is to be still in a frantic world. To pray in a culture of noise. To feel deeply in a world that numbs. It means acknowledging your suffering matters, not as data, but as a story within a larger story. This is not easy. It requires unlearning the myths of modernity. It requires confronting wounds we've hidden under atheistic logic. But as Kierkegaard once said, the most common form of despair is not being who you are. To awaken your soul is to end that despair. And when you do, you begin to see others differently too. No longer as machines, but as mysteries. You see the sacred in their scars, the eternal in their eyes. You stop asking, what is this person worth, and begin to ask, who made this person, and why? This is the revolution. Quiet, invisible, but unstoppable. It begins with you. So now, we stand at a new threshold, not the edge of a canyon, but the mouth of a cave, like Plato's prisoners seeing the light for the first time. Behind us, the shadows of reductionism. Ahead of us, something real. But what is this light we glimpse? What is this ultimate truth that makes sense of our longings, our consciousness, our very self? We are ready now for the final turn. Let's step into the light. Picture this. You're standing beneath a night sky that stretches farther than your mind can reach. Stars shimmer like ancient eyes, and a silence deeper than sound surrounds you. Something stirs, not outside you, but within. A realization so staggering it knocks the breath out of your lungs. You are aware of all this. You are not just in the universe. The universe is, somehow, inside you. This is not poetry. It is the deepest truth science cannot touch. Consciousness, the experience of being, doesn't just happen. It is not explained by particles or processes. It is not generated by data or circuits. It is given. And if it is given, then there must be a giver. The atheist worldview cannot take you there. It leaves you orbiting the mystery but never touching it. It tells you consciousness is a trick of nature, a byproduct of evolution, a flicker in the neural dark. But all the while, you feel, you know, that something sacred is happening inside you. Your capacity to feel sorrow, to seek meaning, to ask why, these are not accidents. They are echoes. Echoes of a voice. And that voice is not silent. It spoke long before we did. It whispered to Moses from the fire. It called to Elijah in the cave. It thundered from a mountaintop and bled from a cross. And it still speaks today, to you. Not through arguments or theories. But in the quiet defiance of your soul that insists, I am real. I am known. I am loved. Consciousness, in the Christian vision, is not a puzzle to solve. It is the image of God within you. You are a spiritual being enfleshed. You are made to commune, not just with others, but with the source of all being. To be conscious is to be capable of relationship. And not merely human relationship, but divine intimacy. This is the truth atheism dares not face. If consciousness is real, then the person is central to reality. Not laws. Not randomness. Not matter. But personhood, relational, knowing, willing, loving personhood. And this person is not you. It is the one who made you. In the beginning was the Word, writes John, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The Christian claim is not that God created you and left. It is that the very light of your awareness, your ability to know and be known, is the overflow of divine life itself. This is not blind faith. This is philosophical fulfillment. Because every question we ask, what is truth? Who am I? Why do I suffer, presumes a conscious self capable of meaning. A self that did not invent meaning, but receives it. And once you admit that, you've already begun to return home. You were made for more than survival. You were made for communion. You were not designed to wander a cold, indifferent cosmos. You were born into a story, an eternal narrative in which your soul plays a vital part. And the ache you feel when you stare into the night, it's not delusion. It's homesickness. Even atheists feel it. Dostoevsky's Ivan Karamazov can't believe in God, yet weeps for a child suffering. Why? Because love cries out from the soul, even when the mind resists. Even the skeptic prays in silence when the plane drops 10,000 feet. Even the hardened materialist tears up at the sound of a Bach chorale or the laugh of a newborn. Why? Because consciousness is a portal, not a prison. It points beyond itself. The Christian vision doesn't flatten this. It completes it. You are not merely aware. You are meant to be aware. You are not merely asking questions. You are being invited into a relationship with the answer. And here, everything changes. Your thoughts are not just thoughts. They are reflections in the mind of God. Your pain is not just pain. It is part of the redemptive arc written before the foundations of the world. Your longing is not meaningless. It is a homing signal calling you back to the one who made you. And the gospel? The gospel is not just about saving your soul from sin. It's about awakening your soul from slumber. It's about seeing, truly seeing, for the first time. Not as a machine. Not as a mistake. But as a miracle. So what does this mean for you, standing now at the edge of understanding? It means your consciousness is not a glitch. It is the very place where God meets you. It means you can stop running from the silence and start listening in it. It means you were never meant to carry the burden of self-definition alone. You have a name spoken by your Maker. You have a soul that will not die. And it means, finally, that atheism is too small a story for the vastness of who you are. There is more. There has always been more. What lingered in your mind after watching this video? Share your thoughts in the comments, your voice matters here. Thank you for reflecting with me. If something in this stirred you, please like, subscribe, and keep exploring the depths of your inner life. Until next time, stay curious. Because the examined life is still worth living.